Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, we have Monique Alvarez, who uses her 30-plus years of experience of entrepreneurship and leadership to help women around the world become powerful business owners as an international business consultant. She's a digital nomad and travels full-time with her husband and kids. We're going to learn a little bit more about all of that and how she incorporates digital nomading into the process. So, Monique, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, great. So how did you get into this world of being an international business consultant and then a digital nomad? It's not like there was a newspaper ad or, let's say, Craigslist ad that says, move around the world and do awesome stuff.
No, it's true. You have to create that ad for yourself. So the way I got into this, it really goes back to when I was 19 years old. I took sort of a fluke trip to Myanmar, which is between India and I'm going to go blank, right next to India. And back in the day, it was Burma, and it was still in communism. It was a very off the beaten path. It was a crazy trip, that you do when you're 19. And what it did for this small town girl is totally blew my mind wide open. And I knew that travel had to always be part of my life. I knew I had to be free to move about the world. And so I traveled all of my 20s, and then I got married. And my husband and I started a business together, and I said it has to allow us to travel and do what we want. And we started a marketing business together, and it wasn't until I had 2 babies in 12 months that I transitioned into business consulting. And now we travel full-time with our family.
Wow, now that's incredible to be able to do that, because so many people have these limiting beliefs when it comes to traveling and a family. I should think about how many would say, oh no, we can't go anywhere with our kids, it's too hard and blah blah blah.
Yes, it's true. When I had this idea and I vocalized it to people, whether it was friends or family or perfect strangers, they looked at me like I had 4 heads. It was like, no, you don't do that. Once you get married, once you have kids, your life needs to be one way. You settle down, you buy a house, you follow the path. And I knew that wouldn't work for me. And one of the things that I wanted to be was a happy mom. And being a happy mom meant I had to have adventure and I had to explore. And what I've learned is it's not really harder. It's no matter what stage your kids are in, they're going to be in the same stage anywhere in the world you are. What makes it easier for me is that I'm enjoying this ability to travel and explore, and I didn't sacrifice that part of myself just because I wanted a family.
That's important that you say that, because people have those misconceived notions that children have to have these certain things, like it must be the same house, the same neighborhood, but where's that written down at? Right.
And the thing I learned the fastest when I was pregnant with my first son, I was reading all these books on parenting and, on every topic you can imagine, right? And I remember this one day I felt completely overwhelmed and like I had lost all my joy in this idea of becoming a mother. And what I realized is no one can write this manual for me. My child, my experience as a mother, my experience, with my husband and him as a father, it's going to be unique. We're a unique situation, and I can't follow somebody else's handbook on it. I have to flow and figure out what works for us, and that's really all that matters.
It does indeed. It's because you want to live your life according to your terms, because you think about it, the experiences that you have determines everything. The people who have that mindset that everything has to be the same house, the same neighborhood, that's the world they grew up in. That's all they know. That to them, it's scary to wake up someplace where it's different. Like, oh, it's not the same house, from 6 months ago.
Yes. And I think that's what travel did for me is all of those things that we thought, or I thought, because that was the worldview I had been given, I got to shatter them and say, well, that's actually not true for me. That actually doesn't line up with what my experience told me. And what I learned with the kids is my kids are super confident and well adjusted and happy. And what they care about is that they wake up to mom and dad, and that they know that they've got us, and they have, we're going to have our meal times, and we're going to have our play times, and we're going to have our nap times. And they love the adventure, and they know what's the same, and they know what can fluctuate. And it's honestly, it's all they know. So that's the worldview that, and the experience that they have now. So it's totally normal for them.
And that's perfect, because ultimately, if you think about it, that's the foundation of life, because you're showing them something which I think so many people miss out on when they enter in the workplace, and that's building a business around the lifestyle that you want to live versus your lifestyle being dictated by the business you have.
Yes, that was the premise I wanted to build everything on. I honestly, I've always had a person who has goals and aspirations, but my biggest goal, the thing that I always kept in front of me, is that this business must give me the lifestyle that I desire. It can give me other things, but if that one thing is missing, then I have lost my way. I have turned my head from the real vision that I have, because it's not as important for me to hit other benchmarks that might be typical in careers and businesses. I have to have the lifestyle. I see so many people struggle with this. My clients are women in business, and they struggle with that. It's like, how do I hit all these benchmarks that have been handed to me that are important to our society or to my family, and how do I make myself happy in it? And I think at the end of the day, I knew I had to choose lifestyle trumps all.
It does indeed, and people lose sight of that, because we look at how many people they go through life without truly experiencing. You think of the number of women you've talked to where they might get, let's say, 14 days off a year. What are you going to do with that?
I know. Just hearing you say that, it really it hurt my heart. It's the thing for me is I realized I traveled, and then I went back to the U.S. and honestly, I tried living that typical life, and I didn't fit well, probably because I had already changed so much from my travels. And what I figured out and what I decided within my own heart is this is my one life. This is my one life. And I can try to please a lot of different people. I can try to fit in the conventional way, or I can just have a blast, and I can just really, really, really customize it to what's uniquely me. And that's ultimately what I had to choose.
And that is what matters most, because you're paving your own path instead of trying to follow in the footsteps of everybody else. But you look at how many people, they're not happy because they're doing things that are these expectations of others, like, oh, you must get the 9-to-5 job, or you have to work at this big company because all the benefits and blah blah blah, all that stuff.
I know. I still have family members that ask me, when are you going to come home and get a job? It's like, never. It doesn't fit me. But I think you're right. That's even what I talk to my clients about often. It's like, this isn't about me taking one step to the left and so you take one step to the left. This is about every person finding their own unique way, learning basic principles, learning about yourself, and running with it. Because when you're spending too much time trying to listen to that voice and that expert and that family member and that, for me, all the joy is lost. And that's not really how we're wired. We know who we are. We know what we want. Then it's just a matter of following through on it, having the courage to act on it.
Indeed. And that's why I think people get stuck at it, because there's this fear of jumping out there. You think about where you're living at right now. How many people are afraid of just even going outside of the United States right now?
I know. I know, and that's the thing I always encourage people to do is this. I know firsthand it can be scary, it can be criticized, it can put you, in these positions that are uncomfortable. And yet, if we never ever stretch beyond what we're absolutely certain of, what we're already living, we'll never know what's on the other side of that. What else could be out there that I'm too chicken to go put myself in a new situation to try? Nothing is permanent. If I go, I try it and I don't like it, I can always go back to what I know. But what happens when I never leave what I know? For me, that is something I don't want to get to the end of my life and live, reflect on and have regrets about.
Exactly. I mean, that's what life is. You have to step outside of that comfort zone. It's the only way we grow, because if we stay inside that comfortable box, well, then that's all we're going to have is a comfortable life. We're never going to know what's possible.
Never. And we don't look up to anyone. We're never inspired by anyone. There's no one that we read about. I'm reading Frida Kahlo's book right now, and it's like nothing about the people we are inspired by speaks to them staying within the path that had already been laid out, with them staying within the lines. They always did things. I told my husband before I left the house, the greatest thing I've learned from Frida is that people will criticize you while you're alive because you're going upstream or you're going against the norm. But then they'll turn you into a hero when you're dead. That's just the way it goes. And you have to be willing to live your own life and live your own truth, because otherwise so much is lost. Anybody who's gone before us, anyone that we look up to, had they not done that, had they not been willing to go there and break some rules, what new territory would not have been opened up for all of us?
Exactly. You look at all the examples throughout history where someone did that and people thought they were completely nuts. But now it becomes the norm.
Exactly. Everything that's a new thought, a new idea, a new way of everything. My husband's an artist, and he'll often tell me, Picasso was the first one to do things like this, or this person was the first one to kind of break out of that style. And everybody said it was horrible at first. And then what do you know? Every artist for the next 20 years followed suit. So this is a hard lesson for me, honestly, because my personality was such that I liked pleasing people. I liked people being happy with me. I didn't like confrontation and conflict. And yet I realized that's a big price to pay in order to, I have to give up too much to maintain that. And being the first, being a trailblazer, it can be hard, and you can receive a lot of criticism for it, and yet it's amazingly fulfilling once you break through all of that, the mental and internal battle. It's really not as bad when you're living it out as your mind makes it out to be.
Exactly. And I think a great example of breaking the norm of things, if you were to look back to like the late 70s when you had Apple and Microsoft, these big tech giants that they were just starting, and people thought, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And you fast forward, 30 plus years later, and now you're looking at some of the biggest companies in the world because someone decided to break the mold, do something different.
Yes, it's true. You have to be willing to be thought of as crazy. You have to be willing to have, people looking at you with that side eye thinking, what are they doing? Because there's really no other option if we're not busting through our own limits. This is one thing I talk to my mastermind members a lot about. It's like, what are you doing that is much different, that shows growth from 6 months ago, from a year ago? Or is it just all the same? Is it just you're literally on this carousel of more of where you've already been? Because for me, that's the greatest benefit of being in business, is it constantly forces me to grow. And if I'm not utilizing that and I'm really not in that, then it's only half of the benefit. I love business because it's all this freedom and I get to think and I get to be creative, but also it's about always moving forward. Where can we push this? What else can we do?
And that is so important, that we constantly move forward, because people forget about that. There's that stagnation. You look at the number of businesses that they're not doing anything innovative. It's just the same thing over and over again. It's kind of like it's like a one-hit wonder. You can only hear that song for so long before you really get tired of it.
It's true. I was just telling my husband, you can become a one-note individual, a one-note business. And I already know that when you are in a position of constantly pushing yourself and seeing what's on the other side of that, next hill and further up the mountain, I know that increases your chances of having something that totally flops. That increases your chances of all kinds of things, those experiences that we tend to work hard to avoid. And yet, that's the way to grow. I just watched a video by Oprah, and she was talking about when she stopped her show and she started her own network, that like all of the media were talking about how it was a flop, and she couldn't. She did so good back then, but she can't do it now. And she said, well, of course they're going to say that. Of course they're going to scrutinize me. I'm a person who's always innovating. And if you're going to be a person who's always a front runner and you're always a pioneer, that you got to get used to it. That's just par for the course.
Right. Exactly. You're going to have things that win, and you're going to have those things that fail, but it's automatically a given. If you don't do anything, everything's a failure.
Yes. And you really begin to roll backwards in my mind. If you're not expanding and you're not challenging and you're not moving forward, then sooner or later you're rolling back down the hill, because that's how we're designed to do. As humans, we're really created to move in that type of path. And so then everything just begins to shrink up and the inspiration leaves. But it just depends on if we've conditioned ourselves more for comfort or for that, that desire, that thrill of, what am I capable of? That's the thing I love when I work with clients, is when they get to see and experience and have that moment click when I go, oh my God, I'm capable of this and I never thought I was. What else might I be capable of? That's a magical moment.
It is indeed, because people need that proof that they can do it. And that's the one thing that holds people back, is that fear of failure. But once you do it that first time, you realize, oh, that wasn't so bad after all.
Yes, it's true. Sometimes we have to almost return to like a childlike nature, because like my kids, they don't think twice about when they try something. The other day, the boys were jumping from the coffee table to the couch, and they kept pushing the coffee table further and further back, and what's going to happen. They're going to wind up on the floor. That didn't slow them down. It's just like, oh, okay, let's adjust. Let's do that again. But as adults, we feel that pain of, a mistake or a failure or, embarrassment or whatever it is. And we tend to say, okay, that's it. I'm not doing that again. But that's not who we are. It's really not who we are. And we just have to remember, we got to have fun with this too. I mean, this is all one big experiment. We can't get into a place where we're only doing things that are for sure guaranteed success. And I think too many things in our society have prepped us for that. It's like, oh no, just go with the surefire way. Well, that, for me, that's taking so much of the zest of life out of the whole equation.
It is, because if you're that learned trade, this is your using an example of your kids, jumping from the couch to the coffee table. They're fearless because no one's taught them that, oh, you might fail. Then that's a learned skill, because you think about, as people go through life, that becomes a bigger and bigger, like, oh, well, if that doesn't work, well, that could be painful, that could be embarrassing, all those negative emotions, instead of, well, do it. What if you win?
Yes. Yeah, it's really shifting from all the possibilities of what could go wrong to, well, what might happen? What might I discover? What good things could come out of this? It's just really, where is the focus? What am I choosing to focus on? And that one thing is makes or breaks everything. I have clients all the time, and I can see the example of both. It's like, okay, she's focused on, what do I do when this doesn't pan out? And I've got to explain to my spouse, or I've got to explain to so-and-so. And the other one's just focused on, like, if this works out, then this could lead to this, and I could do that. And you're going to have a very different outcome depending on where the focus is.
Exactly. And that's what we have to do, is start focusing more on what if it does work. Because when we're focusing on what will go wrong, we attract the wrong things into our lives versus, doing the right things. I think the perfect example is if you're on a highway, and it's one thing they tell you all the time, that where your focus goes, your energy flows, that expression. So you think if people are driving, if they see a traffic accident on the side of the road, they tell drivers, don't look at the accident, because guess what happens? You naturally start turning your car right towards it.
It's true. Every time. And this is what it takes practice. It takes a conscious effort to say, okay, where are my thoughts directed? Am I more focused on this or that? And it's literally a muscle that we have to practice, because so many people, they're on autopilot. This was the greatest thing that I had to develop. About 10 years ago, I started reading books on this. I started practicing it so that I could know exactly, immediately catch myself. Okay, where am I? Now, this isn't feeling good. Let me back this up. Let me refocus myself, because it doesn't take perfection, but it takes, more often than not, looking at everything that could go right, looking at all that's possible. Then you're in a place where all of that comes in. Then abundance comes in, opportunities come in, wonderful connections and relationships. And it's noticing, it's being aware of this instead of just being reactionary and actually feeling out of control and wondering, well, I wonder why that happened, and not understanding that it all starts right here with me.
Indeed. And that's what we have to do more of. It's becoming self-aware, because it's one of those foundations. I think it's something that's missed in a lot of business conversations, as people want to jump right into, I just want to know what's going to work, what's going to help me grow my business, instead of, you have to have the right mindset as a foundation, because otherwise everything else is meaningless.
It's true. This is one of the hardest things for me. When I get a new client, I have to have this conversation with them, because they want to jump right into, how should I market myself, and what should I post on social media, and what should my website be? And it's like, wait a second. If we don't lay a foundation here, none of that stuff will matter. And the messaging, what you put out there, will have this flavor, this tone that you don't want. And when you start with how you see yourself and how you see the world and what your identity really is, and what you are going to choose to focus on and who you're going to choose to be day in and day out, that's really the biggest thing. It's not about the actions we take if we haven't first figured out, who am I deciding I'm going to be today? Then my actions can line up and have an amazing effect. But working the other way around, it's very limited. The results are very limited, and people get discouraged and they get disappointed and they wonder, well, why did that happen? And I did the same thing she did, and she made all this money and she had this happen. Well, she was coming from a different place than you. That's all there is to it. You can't vibrationally and emotionally and mentally and spiritually be in one place and have someone else who's in a different place and them get the same results. They're going to have very different experiences.
Indeed. I think a great example of that is if people just take a look at their news feed on Facebook and see the types of posts the people you're connected with are what's showing up every single day. If it's full of negativity and doubt, all that type of stuff, that's going to bleed into you versus the people that are putting out things that's inspirational, the people are accomplishing stuff that's going to raise your vibration because you're like, I want more of that. So it changes everything.
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest principles that I remind myself of, that I try to infuse in my work. One of my favorite things that Henry Cloud, he's a psychologist, and I can't remember the words verbatim, but he basically says to think that the people around us don't affect us, it's crazy. We know this and we tell this to our kids, but then as adults we somehow think that we can override that we can overcome that, and it's absolutely not true. That's the power of human beings. We have an amazing impact on each other. And so if our circle is not moving the same direction we want to be, and they're not elevating us, then they're having an effect, but they're not having the correct effect that we say we want. And that can be a tough one, because when someone decides that they have a goal, that they want to have a business, they want to have travel, they want to have whatever it is that they want, cleaning up the circle, it's part of the process, because we're not going to get to new places with the same people. I just told this to my group, that a year and a half ago, I knew that the people who were around me weren't going to make the next season, because I was reaching for huge new growth. I was setting up my lifestyle of full-time travel, and I just had to say it out loud and say, I know this and I'm okay with this, and that cannot be the reason I choose to not grow. I can't slow down enough to keep everyone with me forever. They can choose, they not only can they choose it for themselves, they have to.
That's important, because too many people want to hold on to relationships that are more like anchors. They're just dragging them down, not realizing some people, their level of comfort in life is so great they don't want to grow, because everything around them it's what they want. They don't want anything else. And because you want more,
yes,
you can't exist in the same space.
No, you can't. And I have to accept them as they are, and I have to accept myself as I am and realize they're just not compatible. And it's okay. And I have to keep moving. I have to keep moving, because this is the path I'm committed to. And
Right.
they don't have to change for me, and I'm not going to change for them.
Right, exactly. I think the best way people can look at it is if you relate it to dating. Simply because you're not going to have a relationship with someone that you can't see yourself growing with.
It's true.
But you look at how many people, they don't do that, and then the relationships they're in are full of turmoil and chaos, and they're just not happy. Versus, you look at like the relationship that you have with your husband, and how you're in alignment, and you're doing things constantly to create growth, so you take things to a new level all the time.
Yes. It's funny you say that, because that's true. I think that that's ultimately why I ended up with Derek, is because he showed me and he demonstrated that he could grow with me, that it wasn't going to be this stagnant life, or this relationship that wasn't open to possibilities and to growth and to more and to the unknown. I had to know that. I had to feel that, because I knew myself enough at that point that I can't be confined. I'm not going to be okay with a good life. I want a great life.
And that's powerful, because that's the epiphany everybody needs to have. It's who are the people that you need to have around you who are going to elevate you day in and day out. They're not going to hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yep.
we're all on different paths in life.
Yes. And every season is unique, and it's our job to say, okay, who am I going to surround myself with now? This is my job. This is my responsibility. I can't let this just float and land however it lands. I need to deliberately create my circle. I teach a lot about networking and the power of it, and and who you work closely with and who you refer and who you confide in. And that is, it's the same thing. It's knowing these are the people I'm choosing to run with. And this group that I choose, we're going to impact each other in a big way. And so I'm going to choose wisely.
And you have to do that because I think in terms of the business foundation that people need, understanding who you network with is everything, because there's too many people, they want to network with individuals who are more interested, let's say, in social hour versus building a business.
Yes, I laugh because there's this adjustment phase for most of my clients because they might join my mastermind or some program or whatever. And they're really used to maybe more an environment that's a little bit more given to, okay, yes, that's great, good, try that. And okay, it's a little more padded, it's a little more gentle. And I realized a few years ago that my clients aren't paying me to tell them what they want to hear. If I'm not honest with them and if I say, listen, this is good, but this is not working for you. This isn't going to take you to the next level. Remember those goals you told me you had? This doesn't fit with that. So you've got to change this. What I've learned is most people aren't used to people being so, what's the word? Up, just saying outright, this has to go. We've got, I have to remove all of the fluff here and point blank tell you this is what I see. I told a story recently in one of my programs, and I said when I first moved overseas, the first place I moved to and lived was Albania. And I was a volunteer at an orphanage, and I made friends with a Korean, and she told me one night, if you act like an independent American, you aren't going to make it. And she was absolutely right. And she was the first person ever in my life to point something out and say, this, if it goes unaddressed, it will ruin you. And you have this goal. You want to make an impact, but you can't do that. You've got to work as a team. You've got to ask for help. And I kept that with me. And that's what I feel is my job to do with my clients, is point out the things that I know will ruin them if they go and they're left unchecked.
That's powerful because people need to hear that versus the big group hug that you see that a lot of people are doing. Oh, it's okay. Well, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think too many people are afraid to come out with the truth or to say what they see and to say what they know, because once again, it's this culture of I don't want to offend them, I don't want to hurt their feelings. It doesn't have to be done in a mean way. All of my clients know I believe in them 100%, and that's also why I can't let this just go under the radar. I just can't let you keep doing that, because it doesn't serve either one of us. I'm too results driven. I want my clients to get results, and if they're not getting results, then I'm frustrated. So I can't let those things go because neither one of us are going to reach our goal.
Right. And that's what's important. We have to achieve our goals, and the only way we can do that is hearing the information that we need to hear. And even if it hurts in the beginning, it's what's necessary.
Yes.
Because if we're not breaking that mold that's broken, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I'm the same way. I seek out coaches. I seek out programs where I know this person is going to push me. They're going to challenge where I am. I can't avoid growth in their presence. That's who I want to be around. That's who I'm going to pay money to. Because why else am I going to spend time, energy, and money in this space with them if that's not what the result will be?
Right. And that's what you have to have. The people are going to help you raise your standard, because sometimes in the midst of things, you'll have a hard time seeing the path in front of you.
Yes. Well, and that's just it. It's the reason people come to me, the reason I hire someone is because I know I have an idea that I want to go to this place. It's this new place. But the path is not clearly laid out for me. That's why I'm asking for help. because I need someone who's already walked it, who has this higher perspective, and who can clearly say, this is the way to get there. And if that's not what I do, I don't know what it is. It's literally taking someone on a journey that they haven't been on before. Okay, don't go over here. That's a pothole. This is the way. Oh, avoid that to the left. That's my job. And if I'm going to hire someone to be my guide, well, then I'm going to listen to them. Otherwise, I could have taken the hard way, right? That trial and error way. That's one of the things I see too many women do, is they do this trial and error, do it on your own in isolation path for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then they realize this is not working, and it is so discouraging and so rough that they're motivated to find someone who, okay, you've already done this, show me the way.
Exactly, and that's the most critical thing about having someone, is because each and every one of us has an expertise. And it's all the more reason why we need to have others that we can tap into that, so they help us achieve those results faster instead of stumbling through the woods trying to find our way there.
Oh yeah, I'm not into doing it the hard way. I don't need that medal. I don't need the martyr medal of I figured it out on my own after I busted every bone in my body and took the long way there. I'm not after that. I would rather get where I want to go as fast as possible, and not trying to shortcut my responsibilities, but in a smart way. If this person knows what they're doing, then I'm going to listen to them.
Right. I like to jokingly say there's very few things in life that there's only one way to do it, and that way is going to be hard. Kind of like, let's say, if you're going to climb Mount Everest, I don't care how much training you're going to do, that's going to be hard.
Yeah, you still have to climb every bit of that mountain. It's true. And that's the thing about business that I think most people aren't prepared for, is business takes patience, it takes time, it takes more perseverance, it takes a half crazy person. I mean, it takes these things, and there's no bypassing that. You can't get around moments of self-doubt. You can't get around the highs and the lows. You can't get around, like you said, this terrain of Mount Everest. There's no getting around it for anyone. No one has got around that. So it's about, once again, saying, okay, I know I can do this. I know I'm up for the journey. And I have to be willing to let it be just that. I have to know that's what I'm signing up for.
Right. The journey is what we're all on. And that's why I think people have to get a better understanding of, is that people are at different stages of it. And it's where some people end up struggling because they're comparing themselves when they're just getting started in their journey to someone that's, let's say, been doing it for 10 years, who has more resources, they have the testimonials, they have the press, they have all these things, and not realizing they're in a different stage of the game than where they are.
Yeah, this is a huge one. This is so hard to really get into my clients' hearts and minds, is on this journey, you better not start looking around. You cannot do that. You have no idea what they have already been through. You have no idea how many times they tried, and this one worked. Because like you said, we're on different stages. Everyone's in a different place. They have different years of experience, and we rarely see behind the scenes. Rarely do you ever know what someone has been through in order to get where they are. And we cannot start looking around. And not to mention, we're individuals. We all are. It's like the kids thing. My kid didn't walk like my friend's kid did. He didn't potty train the same way. Like, everyone is highly unique in how they handle new things, how they learn, how they handle stress, risk, all of these things. So it makes it very hard on ourselves when we start to look around.
Indeed. And that's the challenge that people have to remind themselves every day, is to stop comparing themselves to everyone else. because they don't know their entire story, but just look at what is their story and what do they need to do to get it out there. Like, who are the people they need to have to help them with their marketing? Who are the people that's going to help them with the publicity? Who are going to be the people that help them get the business process in place so then they can effectively help the clients they're meant to help?
Absolutely. It's just knowing, what's my next step? What am I willing to do? Not what am I willing to contemplate and plan and write out for the 100th time and tinker with. What am I willing to execute today? What am I willing to move on? And I think that that's part of it too, is there's a flow, there's a rhythm in business that I've noticed, is you have to be willing to move with that rhythm. You stay too long on one thing, you dwell in this little spot for too long, you hang out here in this section for too many months overthinking what the last thing you did, you lose this energy. And it's about keeping a rhythmic pace in business. Because I see people, they lose their momentum. They lose that inspiration, that energy that they have moving them forward. And that takes so long to recover. And it's always over something, that is, it won't matter in a few months. It's neither here nor there. So I'm with you. It's like, what do I need to do next? And how do I keep moving? Just keep moving.
Right, exactly. That's the most important thing, is that you keep moving forward. You don't let things slow you down, because you're going to have instances where something you do is not going to work the way you intended. So what? You make an adjustment and you keep going.
Oh, yes. You can't let it mean something about your whole career and about who you are as a human being and, let it get too deep. It's just like, well, that thing didn't work out. That didn't go the way I imagined it would. All right, let's go. What's the next thing?
Right.
And
that's what we have to do.
We can't take our own things too personally.
Right. Because people will have so much more success if they embrace that simple principle. Fail fast, period. If something doesn't work, keep going, do something else.
It's the truth. One of the biggest lessons I had to learn, I had this really hateful thing come out about me about a year ago, and I spent way too much time lingering on why this person did it and what could I have done to avoid it and how is this going to affect my business? And basically, these trolls and haters, I let them get in my head for too long. And I recently had another incident happen. Typical, right? This is, if you're putting yourself out there, if you're doing business, if you're doing podcasts and writing, all this, it's going to happen. And the greatest thing I learned is when this happened, I said, I'm taking care of the things I know I need to do. And this is not taking more than 4 days of my life, and we're moving on. And it was such a different experience this time for me, because I had already learned there's no sense in taking months to dwell upon this. Like, just move on, because no one's affected more than me. Nobody. Not anyone else involved. So I can't do that to myself.
Right. And I think you said something there which people have to realize. As you put yourself out there more and more, you're going to attract your fan base, but then at the same time, you're going to attract a few haters along the way. And I like to joke and say, if you're not attracting any haters, you're not putting yourself out there enough.
Yeah, it's true. You're not being, I like to call it, you're not as fully expressed as you could be. If I avoided certain topics, I could avoid more haters, right? If I didn't talk as much about traveling full time as a family, just last week I had this lady just, lose it on social media with me. You're just, what's the word? You have all of this privilege in life. So, yeah, of course you can live this dream, but that's not possible for the average woman. And she just, went into a whole thing. And I thought, if I kept my mouth shut about certain things, my lifestyle, then I wouldn't get this. And yet, that's what this is all about, is me saying, this is all of me. And I'm not hiding it. I'm not editing it. And also, it's the greatest way I get clients because I get women who want the same thing, who say, you know, I have never been content with that. And you're showing me it's possible, so I want it. And so it comes with the territory, and you figure out it really has very little to do with you. It has to do with you're bringing something up that's confronting what they've always believed or how they've always stopped themselves. And now they have a living, breathing example in front of them saying, that's not necessarily true.
Right. They're trying to justify where they are so they feel better about themselves versus looking in the mirror and saying, well, crap, I don't like what I see. What do I need to do to change this?
It's really hard to look in the mirror. And then when you hire help and you put yourself in a mastermind or whatever, and you got all these mirrors, it can be hard. You can go, I didn't ever see that angle to myself. But that's one reason I love it. That's one reason I started my own mastermind, is because I said, I need more reflections. I have blind spots. I need people to reflect back things to me because I will never, ever see it on my own.
Right, exactly. And that's the most important thing is for us to grow, we have to step outside of our comfort zone and we have to continuously surround ourselves with people who are going to help elevate us each and every day.
Absolutely. And that takes a level of courage because you have to know that means I'm going to need to work on some things. I'm going to need to grow.
Right. Because if we're not growing, well, we're shrinking, and that's not good.
No.
So as we're winding everything up here, what's one thing that you would recommend that people truly need to do to create that business that they're wanting so they can live life according to their terms?
I would say the first thing you have to do is you have to know what you want. And you have to get really comfortable saying exactly what you want. And then once you know that, and once you're not going to dance around that, skirt around it, edit it, compromise it, then you surround yourself with people who will help you get what you want. For me, it's as simple as that. But we have to be really honest about what we want. I think so many of us, we feel, well, I have so much, I don't really think I should ask for more. Or, so many people would be happy with less. No, just come out with it. Who are you? What do you want? Say it, declare it, make it as real as you can. And then I guarantee you will begin to find the people who will help you get what you want.
Exactly. That's what it's always about, because once you put it out into the world, you will begin attracting exactly what you need to get there.
Yes. It starts with us. What do I want?
It does
and
indeed.
It's okay. It's okay to want it.
Right. We have to give ourselves permission to want it.
Yes. And you can't wait for anyone else. You can't wait for anyone else to say, you know what? You can have this. You deserve this. This feels like it's the right next thing for you. You have to be able to say, listen, this is it. This is, I painted the picture of the life I want, and I'm not stopping until I get it.
Right. You can't stop until you get there, because it's like running a marathon. If you want to call yourself a marathoner, you have to cross the finish line. So you're not going to stop halfway through the race.
No, there's no point in running the first 5 kilometers if you're not going to run the second 5. It's like, just run your race and get to the finish line. It doesn't matter how many times your brain tells you along the way you can't do it. You can, as long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Right. And sometimes that's all it takes. It's one foot in front of the other over and over again, and eventually you will get there.
Yes.
So how can people reach out and learn more about you?
My website is MoniqueAlvarezEnterprises.com. So that has all kinds of information about me and how I work. And also I have a Facebook group called Success Redefined, and it's a great group of women who know that they want big dreams, they want big things, but it might not fit into the conventional package that we're all familiar with.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's a great way to connect with other people who are wanting to have more in life.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for coming to the podcast today and sharing your wealth of wisdom about mindset and those foundational business principles that people need to ultimately create success.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.